Okay guys, so this is the bike I'm going to be on today. To give you a bit of an idea, we are in, not sure if you can see the mountain views here, but this is the Canmore Nordic Center in Canmore, Alberta, and the bike I'm on here is a Pivot Firebird 29. So this is 162 mil rear travel, 170 mil fork enduro bike, and this is what Eddie Masters and Matt Walker have been using as their enduro race bikes this year. It has won an EWS race, so a proven performer. And part of why I've got this thing here at a non-enduro place is to basically show off the fact that it's much more than just an awesome enduro bike. So let's go for a ride. So it's the start of November. This usually wouldn't be the time that we'd be riding on dirt at the Canmore Nordic Center. It's raining ever so lightly here, but I think we'll be able to get a decent lap in. So the whole point of this bike ride and review is basically to talk about the fact that this Firebird 29 is so much more than an ultra capable super enduro bike. In the world of enduro bikes these days, we're basically hearing super enduro being chucked around when we start getting into bikes that are kind of in this category of 160 plus rear suspension, 170 plus for a fork. So it fits into that. What it doesn't fit into is the fact that a lot of those super enduros would be absolute beasts to actually enjoy on ups. So one of the things about enduro bikes is often that you would say they can climb. They're not great at climbing, but they can. And that fits the nature of enduro racing. You got to get yourself to the top, and then you're racing a bunch of different descents in a day. So the GoPro effect here, I'm sure, just makes it look like I'm riding on flat ground. My breathing will be a bit of a hint that this is a bit of a climb in here. So when we're talking about a bike with the amount of suspension this has from a proven company like Pivot, I think we all know it's going to descend super well. What got me excited about this bike was this is hard work. Was basically how much I enjoyed the climbing on my day I spent on one of these a year ago with our Pivot rep on North Shore, BC. You really shouldn't enjoy climbs on an enduro bike. Like, that shouldn't even be a thing you think about. But this is a bike that I would have no issues using as a daily rider, and I don't think I would ever sort of feel like I was missing out on some rides because I was riding around on a big beast of a bike. So geometry numbers on this guy. I'm 6'1". I'm on a size large. By the numbers, you'd think it would be a little bit of a small fit because it only has a 475 mil reach on it. But I've actually found it to be pretty good. The one thing I find too many people think about is just the seated reach position, which maybe feels a little compressed on this. But when you're standing, if you're having to actually lean forward onto your hands with a really long bike, you're essentially unweighting the rear wheel, and you do want the ability to keep your weight centered on a bike, and that's what this does really well. So I find it keeps it quite playful as well. So like I said, 475 reach measurement, 431 chainstay lengths. Now this is really bucking the trend that companies like Specialized are going after these really long rear ends. Pivot's kind of on all their bikes known for keeping rear ends nice and short, and that's something I'm a huge fan of. Once again, it keeps the bike playful, helps with tight sections, whether they're cornering or descending, and I like the extra relative ease of being able to manual a bike with a shorter rear end, or if you're going over a bit of a blind drop, you can make a very last minute decision if you realize something isn't conducive to just falling off. You can lift the front wheel up and over. Oh, I just spun out on that slimy rock. So yeah, it's something I really like, is a maneuverable bike like that. And there are people who will say that long rear end on a Specialized enduro is making it more planted and stable, which suits the enduro racing scene. I'd say if a bike is a proven EWS elite level winning bike, it can't have any compromises that would actually affect how fast it can go and how it will handle those top speeds. So proven EWS bike means we know descending is going to be good. So other numbers on this guy: 65-degree head tube angle, which these days is pretty standard sort of a number. We've got bikes getting down to 63-ish degree head tube angles, and maybe as steep as 66 on some enduro bikes, but 63 to 65 seems to be a pretty good range. Seat tube angle is 74.5 degrees, which by current standards from some companies would have you thinking that's going to be too slack, but As a lover of steep seat tube angles, this thing is still steep enough that I can just slide my saddle forward on the rails and get the kind of steep seat tube angle that feels natural to me. So this stuff that we're in right here wouldn't be too uncommon, even though this is essentially traversing a hillside. But this wouldn't be too uncommon to have in the middle of a race segment in an enduro race. So being able to carry speed, pump through the terrain is pretty important on a race bike. It's not just hauling ass when gravity's doing all the work. I mentioned how hard this is, talking and riding a climb. Whew. This could be a tad hairy. Between the ice and wet roots, it's a tad slimy out here. So not sure if you can hear that, but this is the Pro XT XTR build, which in Canada, and this one has the Reynolds Carbon wheel. So this is like a over $10,000 bike. I'm riding it pretty much stock. I cut the bars down to about 770. Stock tires and stuff. I did switch to a one-up dropper post to get the full 210 millimeter drop to match my crazy long legs. These roots are rocks are quite slimy between it probably only being a couple degrees up here, and having had fresh rain coming down just a moment ago. We've got some nice ice here. I think you get the point seeing me going through this stuff. I'm not suffering on the climb. I mean, I am, because I'm not the fittest dude in the world, but it's not hard on this bike. This thing handles climbs amazingly. I'm gonna keep going for a bit and I'll catch you on the descent. So we're not in the main descent yet, but this at least does get into some of the stuff where a nimble bike is going to mean something to you. And we're being able to pump the terrain and not be concentrating on what do I do to get my bike through this tight corner is the efficient enduro racer's way of doing things. Once again, the suspension is so freaking efficient on this guy. So suspension design on this guy, DW link. DW stands for Dave Weigel, for anyone who doesn't know. He's quite the guru. This suspension design is also found on Ibis most notably. Maybe still on Turner's, I'm not sure. But Pivot and Ibis are the two main guys using it. However, it's not the exact same thing because they each request slightly different ride characteristics to fit geometry and what they want their bikes to excel at. Okay, now I'll catch you on descent. Figured I'd stop, show you exactly what we got going on here. So, Shimano XTR XT 1051 12 speed race face Affect cranks. I'm using Dady T-Mac pedals, Float X2 factory rear shock that these guys special tune to work for the Pivot best. Those Reynolds wheels I was talking about, these are a 30mm internal carbon rim on a Reynolds made by i9 rear hub. DW link is basically the patent on that pair of links with that pair and the way the shock is being driven. So roughly classified as a short dual link, but DW does have some magic powers. This version of the bike has a Fox Factory 36 and it's got a Grip 2 damper, so we have high and low speed compression happening here. This is the factory 50mm pivot stem. I put some 1-up grips on here. Those XT 4-piston brakes. These are the Pivot handlebars that came stock. I just cut them down to 770. I've got this oh so ugly saddle that I really like. It's got titanium rails and it's nice and squishy. That is my 210mm dropper. You can still see there's room there that I could run a 230 or 240 if ever felt like a thing or became a thing. We have some really nice Ice Tech rotors, so there's a sign of real high-end braking stuff. There's that 4-pot 4-piston brake. There's the beautiful mountains we have here. And that is pretty much the bike I'm on today. And hopefully I'm out of the snow here soon. And we'll catch up with you in a moment. light's fading here, so I'm gonna have to get descending in a hurry if I can survive this ice. Yikes. Okay, let's hope there isn't ice in here, because this is where this bike shines for being a nimble little beast. This is where mid-travel support really matters on a bike, because this garbage is hard to pedal through, but if you can pump the terrain and not be battling a bike that's just absorbing all your input, that's basically when you hear about mid-stroke support. That's pretty much what they're talking about, is that you don't just push your way through and feel like you're always riding a big squishy pillow. You actually really want that last bit of travel to be the stuff that pretty much is only there when you smash something huge. Go together with all that, on any of these new school bikes with slack head tube angles, you better be happy putting weight over your front wheel when you're cornering, because if you get cautious and start leaning back, that's when front wheel washouts happen. So weight over the front end, bike body separation, get the bike leaning. And there we are, a Pivot Firebird doing its thing so awesomely. And that thing is just making its rider really happy. Whoa, we got grease. Okay, I'm signing out for now. This is the Pivot Firebird 29 from Bike Bros in Cochrane, Alberta. Night. Well, I got some battery life left, so I'll do some extra footage trying to get back to the car before the sun goes down. Some people do just like to watch a POV. So, I'm tired. So I didn't mention, This bike is light. It's under 31 pounds, as is. That is impressive. It doesn't fit a water bottle, but fortunately 20 or 25 years ago some guys invented hydration packs where this is the exact bike in mind, because it's really not the end of the world in my mind. I like water bottles, but I wouldn't ride a lesser bike to get one. Whew. So this is still the Canmore Nordic Center, famous for hosting some Canada Cups. I think maybe even a World Cup race, a bunch of 24-hour races. So it is a heavily ridden place and a real gem to have 45 minutes from our store in Cochrane. This year, I got spotted out here so many times, someone asked me if I lived here. Guess what? I don't. I've never even tried. This is a new GoPro Hero 9 we're filming on. I'm not doing any color correction or filming in a flat profile to do yada yada. I just turn the thing on and go, because that's how sophisticated I am with cameras. Oh, my poor legs. Curious what your thoughts are. Would you buy a Firebird with everything you've seen and read as a daily driver? I know before I actually rode one, I was convinced this wasn't a super enduro beast that you would not enjoy unless you're really into the steep, gnarly stuff, bro. Well, I love it. But it's also a habit for me to love bikes that punch outside their weight class. So this is way more trail worthy than a super enduro bike should be. Just like my Marin Rift Zone with 125, 130 travel is way more enduro worthy than it should be. I love that in a bike. Oh, so pooped. It's getting dark. Oh. Still one last favorite section on this trail. I hope I get there. Oh. In time to see. See you in a bit. So here we are, another favorite section of trail. with a harsh climb in it. Can you even see anything anymore? Oh, the XTR shifting on this thing, so nice. I am back. Wow. Oh. And that was that. Do I still have battery life? Wow. Well, it's definitely getting dark out. And I got one hill to climb. Back at the trailhead at least. Whew. So, was this the last ride on dirt for 2020? Who knows? Let's hope not. I love this stuff. I love it.